Hello, this is Stuart Downward, and this is GG5400 Design and Management of Projects. These are the details of the Malta field course that you're going to take from Saturday the 6th of April to Friday the 12th of April 2019. You'll find the field guide in Canvas, and what I intend to do now is to go through the field guide with you. I'll talk about the assessment as a separate podcast and make that available for you to view. The staffing on the field trip will comprise myself, Gavin Gilmore, Debbie Humphrey and Mary Kelly. I'll not be going on the trip myself, but I'll be directing your activities and I'll be keeping in touch by email and by Skype from Kingston. In the field guide, we're going to talk about the essential information, clothing requirements, risk assessment, professionalism, academic integrity, research ethics, and then the specifics of the staff directed and the project-based day. And there's also some appendices that you'll go through there as well and take a look at. Let's start with the essentials. First of all, the dates of our flights. You're leaving on Saturday the 8th, and this is your flight number. We're travelling with Air Malta. The flight time is 10:50 in the morning from Heathrow Airport. I said that usually goes from Terminal 4, but we'll check that immediately before the flights just to make sure. It's your responsibility to get to Heathrow, so you need to make sure you're there in good time. I'd suggest probably getting there around about 9 o'clock in the morning at the very latest. When you arrive at Heathrow, just go straight to the desk. It's ticketless. Show your passport to the Air Malta desk and they'll issue you with a boarding card. We've got baggage for everyone, so you can take one bag up to 20 kilos plus whatever you want to take on as cabin luggage. Anticipate arriving at Malta International Airport for about 3 o'clock. There'll be a coach there to pick you up, and that will drive you to our hotel around about 5 o'clock in the evening, and then you'll get checked into your rooms and have your supper. For the return journey, that's going to be on Friday the 12th, leaving at 3:40 in the afternoon. There'll be a coach departing at 1:15 from the hotel, which will take you to the airport, and that gets back to Heathrow, I think Terminal 4 again, just after 6 o'clock in the evening on that Friday. So you can arrange then your travel back to wherever you need to be. If you miss the flight for any reason, it's your responsibility to get to Malta at the next nearest accommodation. I suggest if you take your passport to the Air Malta desk, they may be able to rearrange the flight for you, but I don't recommend it because it may cost you and that will be at your own expense. So please do make sure you're on that flight. Hopefully everyone who needs a visa has seen me already. If you do need a visa and you haven't seen me, please do so as soon as possible. Our accommodation in Malta is in the Diplomat Hotel in Salima. We're all staying in the same place. Rooms are typically triples. It's very comfortable and they'll be providing all of our breakfasts and evening meals as a buffet service. It's very flexible. It's a great hotel. We've used it for many years. There's good Wi-Fi and there's lots of working space where you guys can work. You'll be buying your lunches on some of the days, so just anticipate a few euros to be doing that, but it's very, very cheap and cost effective. In terms of accessing money when you're there, the currency obviously is the euro. You can get euros in advance. Alternatively, most ATM machines will just dispense it, and there are ATM machines very close to the hotel. So if you don't have euros with you immediately, you'll be able to get them very soon. In terms of medical facilities, you're all covered by the university medical insurance. Before you depart, I'll be asking you to complete a confidential medical questionnaire just to double check if anyone's medical circumstances have changed in any way. If you do need to get through to the trip leader, we'll be issuing you with an emergency telephone number before departure. That is for emergency use only, but that will reach one of the staff in Malta on the trip. And so if you have any problems, you can always get a message through to that person. You can also get a European health insurance card if you check the website here from the NHS. That will make sure that if you do need any medical assistance, you'll get reciprocal cover. But as I say, you're fully covered insured-wise by the university for all medical circumstances you might need. In terms of clothing, in spring in Malta can be variable. Usually it's very warm, but there can be cold days, and we have had days in the past when it's a bit rainy, so make sure you've got a light waterproof jacket in case of rain, decent shoes. You're going to have to do a bit of walking along rocky ground, so make sure you're prepared for that. Sun hat, sun cream, etc. Swimming items, if you want to go for a swim, there'll be a couple of opportunities to do that. And ideally a laptop, at least one laptop between the working groups will be needed in order to do the project work, which I'll describe in a little bit. And then obviously in the field, things like a hardback notebook and pencils, a clear plastic bag to keep the rain off it if it does rain, just for your notes. Risk assessments. For every day of the field trip, I have completed a risk assessment. When you are doing your project days, we'll ask you to complete a risk assessment of the anticipated risks that you'll encounter on those days. This is an important employability skill, because if you're designing project work in employment, you'd be thinking very carefully about the risks that might involve. At the end of this handbook, you'll see the risk assessments for the days that I've completed, so you get a sense of what's required of you for your individual risk assessment days for your project groups. And the supervisors of your projects, that'll be me and Gavin, will be taking a look at those and guiding you through that when you're in Malta. Professionalism, just a reminder that this is a field trip, and so we do expect you to be representing Kingston University, and obviously that carries a certain professional responsibility. So others will be using the hotel too, so please keep be respectful of others within the hotel spaces when you're there, and obviously the way you present yourself within the hotel and you present yourself to different practitioners that will meet is very important. You might think about clothing, for example, if you're having meetings with people in, say, the town council and government, and dress appropriately and plan appropriately for those types of meetings. Here's the itinerary then. The itinerary is developed in two halves. The first part of the itinerary on the Saturday through to the Monday are what we call our staff-directed days. And on these days, all students, that's the environment and the geographers, will be together, and you will have a series of staff-directed exercises that you will undertake, which will introduce you to the geography and the environment of Malta. On the Saturday evening, starting at 7 o'clock, you can have an evening exercise. There'll be a briefing for that, and you'll be walking a transect from the hotel in Salima to St Julian's Bay. The idea of this transect is to familiarise yourself with the coastal environment, but also get you thinking and reminding you of the importance of making good notes, recording observations, and thinking about the evaluation of those observations you'll be taking. There'll be a briefing for the exercise on the evening, but there are also notes in this guide which give you some advanced information of that. On the Sunday, we're dividing it between an investigation of the physical landscape. So you'll be out at a place called Golden Bay in the morning, investigating the physical landscape of the beaches and the rocks and headlands of Golden Bay, and the interplay of that landscape with resources and development. And in the afternoon, you're going to be going to Mdina, which is the old capital. So the focus here will be very much about heritage, human landscape, and the built and changing landscape of Malta. And then on the Monday in the morning, you'll be visiting the Maltese Planning Authority, which is responsible for spatial planning and development on Malta. They usually provide us with a fascinating insight into Malta development issues, a whole range of issues from transport, air quality, pollution, water resources, energy, you name it. It's a real tour de force. It's excellent. And in the afternoon, a visit to the flood management tunnels. Malta suffers considerably from surface water flooding when there's high intensity precipitation, and this is only anticipated to increase under climate change scenarios. And so understanding flood preparedness and flood management is a very important aspect. And hopefully you'll go down into the tunnels and you'll see these new built structures for yourselves. From Tuesday onwards, you're working on the projects, and so that'll be the whole day Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And the final submission of your blog, I call it a report here, but effectively it's going to be a blog, will be on that Friday by 12 o'clock. So effectively, you're going to have about 3 full working days to do that, and I'll describe that in a moment to you and describe the assessment. I'll do that as a separate podcast that you can listen to. I then talk about research ethics. Clearly, we need to think carefully about how we ask questions, who we ask the questions of, what we do with our data. This is an important training exercise for your dissertation in this respect, because many of you will be undertaking qualitative methods where you'll be dealing with human subjects in different ways. So we'll need to think very carefully about that, and you'll have an introduction and development of the research ethics when you're in Malta, but there is advanced information here in ethics form. And then I give you some details of the staff activities, particularly for the Saturday evening exercise and the Sunday exercise here, which is your kind of introduction to the landscape of Malta before going on to the project aims, which I'll describe as a separate podcast in a moment. And just going to the end of this guide, we've then got the risk assessment forms, so you can see these are filled in already. You can use these as a template for thinking about the risk assessments for your project groups. Okay, so I've got the different sites that we're visiting here for the staff days. You can see how I put those together. We've got a blank ethical consideration form if you're using human subject or talking to human subjects, and we'll get you to fill those forms out appropriately. And then at the very end, a blank risk assessment form as well. There we go, which you can fill out for the different sites you might be investigating. And clearly risks will vary from site to site. Okay, good. So take a look through this. If you have any questions about any aspect of the itinerary, what's happening, where, when, or why, please come back to me in advance, and happy to answer any questions you might have. Thank you very much.